Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. Where do I even begin with this trip? If you ask me what the purpose of my trip was, like they did at the airport at immigration, because Bangladeshi passport, what are you gonna do? I would tell you it's so that I could go see my best friend of basically 20 years at this point. I've known this guy since as far as I can remember, and I haven't seen him in 2 years. Flights were a little cheap in October. I figured I would go. Oh my God, it's so bright. It's so bright. I'm tearing up.
You say let's play and be happy now. You say time to seek, not to hide. I'd say that's a fine way to live your life. You say it's a need satisfied, a dream come true.
So day one was probably the most hectic part of our trip for sure, just because obviously we were going to the airport and then we actually had to do the touristy stuff that one does when they're at a new city. Quick flight from Toronto Pearson to O'Hare International and a much longer train ride later. I was at Munkasir's place with Jag and we set about to see what the architecture in Chicago was like. We saw a bunch of buildings, we looked up, we admired the beauty, the intricacy, and obviously some of these buildings were old as time. Chicago is an extremely old city with a lot of culture, a lot of architectural differences influenced by various times in their history. And we basically roamed around downtown Chicago looking at everything. Obviously, we went to the Bean, which is a Chicago icon and is a serious tourist trap. And then we did our first food stop, which was at Ghirardelli's Cafe. To be honest, it was all right. All three of us got one shake because they're like 900 calories each, which is something that is very, very common in America that I noticed in this trip. 900 calories in this. This is the first thing we're eating in Chicago. Well, drinking. It's great. It's chocolate. It's Ghirardelli's, but it's hard to eat. We shared it. The ice wasn't blended. We felt chunks of ice. So it wasn't a great time, but the flavors were good. Ghirardelli in general makes some good stuff. All right, it was all right. The next thing we did was take the scenic river cruise that goes across all of downtown Chicago. It was a pretty cool experience, especially because we wouldn't know a lot of the things that we saw unless we had a guide. And in this boat trip, there was a guide. So we took the boat trip that highlighted all the amazing architectural structures that are literally dotted across downtown Chicago. Things like the Sears Towers, the Chicago Opera House, structures built by Fazlur Rahman Khan, who is a Bangladeshi American engineer. A really cool experience. For me at least. I don't know about Jag, he fell asleep, which was pretty funny to see. So at this point we were doing a lot of walking and the boys needed a rest. So we waited in front of the Trump Towers, obviously. The boys are sat here on our first day of the City of Chicago trip. We're sat underneath the Trump Towers that is owned by the 47th President of America. You heard it here first. Any opinions?
Trump 2024.
I'm hungry, man.
Everything I say in this video is a joke. I am not a Trump supporter. Honestly, I am also not even American, so it doesn't even matter. Okay, by this point, we pretty much worked up a pretty big appetite because we didn't eat anything. Munkasir had this great idea where he was saving his calories for the night because we were going to go somewhere special, but he wouldn't let us eat. And I was starving, Jag was starving, so we had to eat something. So we hit up Portillo's famous Chicago dogs. As you may know, Chicago is known for their Chicago-style hot dogs, and we tried them. It was actually pretty good. Portillo's is a really cool Chicago icon landmark / restaurant that I've never seen before. The inside is like a food court, but it's very whimsical. And the food itself was great as well. It was pretty decent. I mean, it's a hot dog. Second thing we're eating on this trip is this insane looking Chicago style. Is this Chicago style? No, this is a random.
So the meat, very salty, but very juicy.
It's extremely salty.
Extremely salty.
My end bit was burnt.
Let's get some actual toppings in there.
Have another bite. It's so hot.
That's good though. That means they made it fresh.
Good hot dog, but it's like nothing crazy.
I would give it a 7, I think.
Give us your rating.
Like an 8.
8? Okay. 7 out of 10 would recommend. Next, we had the viral Dubai chocolate because Chicago has a very big Palestinian / Arab cafe scene happening, which I thought was really, really cool. Not really something that we see in Toronto where they make a lot of traditional Arabic style coffee. And we went to this really cool Palestinian cafe that sells the Dubai chocolate. Obviously, they make their own. It's not the original version. And it was really good, honestly. But it was so expensive. I know my video footage cut off, but I paid like $30 for this bit of a Dubai chocolate bar as well as a tres leche cake. It was painful. I didn't expect it to be that expensive. I was shocked. Also, I earn in CAD. I'm spending USD. But even then, it was like 40 bucks. It was absurd. Next thing you know, it was already dark. We've had a really long day. So we chilled at home for a little bit. And our next spot was Sabri Kebab and Nihari. So we're at Sabri Nihari that apparently has the best Nihari in all of Chicago, if not in North America. And we have a new addition, Tasmia. What is your lookup? I'm down for some pan ice cream. I don't like faluda, but yeah, sure, I'll eat it. Sabri Kebab was actually really worth it. It was Nihari, which I don't know if you know what it is, but it's essentially a Bangladeshi / Pakistani style of cooking bone cartilage. Usually it does have bone marrow slow cooked for an extremely long time. Because the bone marrow and the cartilage around it has so much fat, it really thickens out the gravy. So you just kind of use like a naan or a paratha to dip it and eat it. But in Bangladeshi style Nihari, and I know I'm going really deep into the nuances, it is a much lighter, more watery broth, but it doesn't lack flavor. It's just a little bit more lighter. Bro, this is absolutely wild. It's very different from Bangladeshi Nihari. We have Nihari in Bangladesh as well, but it's a lot more like watery. This thing is so viscous for some reason. Like Jack said that it feels like it's gonna go into his gut and solidify, and I agree with him. Like it's so like emulsified, like almost like a sauce. All around, this was a great place. We had some of their kebabs. We had some brain curry, which was cool too. That was easily one of the most absurd things I've ever eaten in my life. I think I will have to rank this really high up. I will say it's a 9. And I thought I had Nihari like this before. I have never had Nihari like this before. It's insane.
Suck a homeless man's dick for this food.
And the brains weirded me out, but I'm gonna still give it a solid 9 out of 10 because that was fucking bomb.
9 out of 10.
Their ice cream was terrible. I did not like their ice cream. Oh, I don't like that. I hate that. It's disgusting. Because I had rose water, and I'm not a fan of rose water.
Willow sway, hook my worm as I'm learning, thinking about yesterday. The water's cold.
So day 2 was a lot more chill and laid back. Honestly, it was a pretty cool sandwich themed day, and I'll explain what I mean. So we started off with brunch. We had some pancakes, some eggs benny, some French toast. You know, good old style American brunch. It was a pretty good, decent brunch, but it wasn't like anything crazy. It wasn't like breaking my mind or like it was not like I was having explosions in my mind. It was just normal brunch. And then we roamed around the waterfront in the Chicago Marina. I want to call it the Marina. We saw the Ferris wheel that basically every city that has any form of water body has.
So we're at this place in Chicago that literally looks like Harborfront. It's pretty jarring. It looks identical to Harborfront.
I got my bait and my tackle the way your dad showed me. I'm at the place that I took you and got down on.
And then we started doing our sandwich tour. Chicago has a big scene of Pacific style sandwich. It's like really thin cuts of beef on really soft bread, and it just kind of all melts in your mouth. And I appropriately am wearing this sweatshirt that I got from Mr. Beef, which if you don't know, it's a restaurant that the show The Bear is based out of. It's literally a sandwich shop that turns into a high-end restaurant in the show, but in reality it is literally just a really good bustling sandwich shop with a lot of history even before the Bear made it famous in the ways that we know today. One of the coolest things I personally think I saw in Chicago, because the entire vibe of the restaurant is exactly like it is portrayed in the show, which is really funny. I felt like there was a Carmi that was running the front house, which was really funny to see. You know, they're Italian for sure, They had that whole family, we love family thing going on, which is really funny to see. And I'm so happy that I got to see. The beef was so perfect. Like, it was soft. It was so like cooked down, but still had a little bit of texture. The bread is so soft.
Exactly.
The bread melt in your mouth. So it was literally a vessel for the meat, because the moment you put it in your mouth, it would just disintegrate because it's dipped in the beef broth, which is so good. I'm honestly salivating right now thinking about it.
For me and Jag, this is, like we said, it was 9. He said it was, what, 9.2. He said 9.2.
I think Al's is better.
And Munkasir thinks Al's is better, so we'll try Al's and let's see.
Munkasir didn't like the beef so much because he doesn't think it's great quantity, but he's a quantity guy and I'm a quality guy. So we agreed on our differences, and the next spot we went to was Al's. This sandwich was great as well. It was a lot bigger because there's different sizes that you can choose, as well as that it was pretty fairly priced as well. So we're at this other sandwich shop called Al's, and Munkasir said that this was the place that he likes the most, better than Mr. Beef apparently. We shall see whether or not Munkasir's taste buds are authentic or he just likes more meat. I think the bread is definitely a lot harder on this one, right?
The flavors are more complex because there's more cheese and toppings and stuff.
Yeah, that one was like very simple, very like fast, easy. It's a little bit more of a generic sandwich. Not my favorite. It has a lot more ingredients that goes into it. So in my opinion, it kind of loses the purity of beef, bell peppers, and that specific cheese sauce that they use in Chicago. Then honestly, at this point, we were pretty full. So we walked around the city. Chicago is a windy city. But yeah, that was pretty much the day. And for dinner, we went to a place called Rico Benny's. And Munkasir again hyped it up because they have huge quantities and it's a store that sells Chicago's finest steak sandwiches. So it's literally deep fried steak that is battered with a boatload of tomato and cheese in between a bread. So it's like a pizza with steak that's wrapped up. It was all right. I saw the cross section and I wanted to kind of barf, to be honest. Nothing beats the beef sandwich. I think I personally like stuff that has good quality and I don't care too much about quantity, even though I'm a pretty big guy. But Rico Benny's was all right. If I think about it, and I would never go back. I don't think I crave it. I don't think I will ever crave it. But yeah, that was day 2. Pretty fun things.
Hello, Chito. Can you say meow? Can you say meow if I do this?
Day 3 was all about chill vibes. We're gonna leave the next morning, so I just wanted to spend some time just chilling with Munkasir and Jag and just like relaxing pretty much. It was a pretty intense 2 days of doing a lot in Chicago. We had breakfast at home and then we played a bit of tennis. So Munkasir's been playing tennis since he was a kid and then he had a big break. And I've been playing tennis over the last 2 summers. And obviously, being the competitive person that I am, I wanted to compete and see whether or not he still had the touch. But there was one thing that we still had to eat, and that was a Chicago deep dish. So we got takeout from one of the really famous deep dish style Chicago places. Everyone that I've spoken to so far have told me that deep dish style pizza is pretty mid and it's like not worth having. But Jag really wanted to have it, and that's the only thing that he put his foot down for. He was like, yeah, I want to try a deep dish pizza. Disappointment is the one word that I have to describe it. It just tasted like a tomato pie with cheese. The flavors were not flavoring. It's just like, honestly, kind of gross. And I know this might offend a lot of people, but this is my YouTube channel, so I can say whatever I want. Not a fan of Chicago deep dish. It was like, there's no protein, it's just tomato and cheese. And it's overwhelmingly just tomato and cheese, so you can't really taste anything. Even if you have other stuff in the pizza, you cannot taste anything. And that was the end of the trip. We flew back the next day, tired, sleep deprived, but content. This was a great little trip with a friend I haven't seen in so long. Honestly, didn't even plan this trip, but hope you like this one. Talk to you later. Bye. So good. Like, I don't even like cream. Weird. Yeah. Go to sleep.